Hi, I'm Alistair Parnell, and I've been playing and teaching WindSynth for about 4 decades now. I hope you find this video useful, and if you do, please remember to like and subscribe. The Aerophone is a digital wind instrument. That means it doesn't have the limitations of a typical acoustic fingering system. It's a good idea to take advantage of these additional features. It might help you play some of those tricky passages a little bit easier. Now, any of the side keys or palm keys or the little finger keys can be used with something called key function. What that does is it allows us to say that we want that key to do something in particular. So rather than it just being the same as a regular saxophone key, we can make it do something slightly different to enable us to do some new things with the fingering system. Now, some of this will be a bit new to you, and some people might say, but hang on, we should be able to do those fingerings without making these changes. You're probably right, and ultimately learning all of your scales and keys correctly is by far the best idea. But you know, even top professional players sometimes like to use a little get out of jail free card by using some of these special tricks. We've talked about some of these settings before. Now, you'll find key function just after fingering mode. I usually have mine set to sax. If you go a little bit further, you'll get the user fingering settings, but we're looking today at key function. Let's just see how we change that setting if we want to. Firstly, we're going to press the key that we want to change the function of. So for this first example, I'm going to press the lowest right-hand side key. I call that the side B flat key. And then in the display, you'll have some options. If we press menu, we can change this option from being either a sax key, which is the default position. But if we go one to the right, you'll also see we can make it be a semitone down, a semitone up, a whole tone down, or a whole tone up. And going back the other way, we can actually turn that key off. So let's have a look at why some of those might be very useful to us. The first one is we could use it to turn a key off. Now, why might we want to do that? Well, personally, I don't use this, but I have sometimes had people get in touch and say that they're finding perhaps the palm keys they're catching by mistake. And in order to just see if that's something that's happening, it might be useful for you to touch the side key D key and in the settings, make the key function be off. That way, you won't affect any of the notes if you accidentally press those palm keys. Of course, you won't be able to use those keys either. That might not be a problem for you, but it is a way of checking out whether you are accidentally pressing a key or simply you just rather would have that key deactivated. The second use for key function would be to set one of your side keys perhaps as a trill key. Now, the way we would do this is we would set one of those keys to, for instance, always play a semitone up. Now, going back to my first example of the side key B flat, of course, usually on a saxophone, if we press 2 fingers and add that right hand side key, we would get an A sharp or a B flat. Okay, that's a very standard fingering. But actually, some of the trills, if we're doing them for a semitone, can be a little awkward. For instance, if we're going from G to G sharp with the left little pinky, that's a little bit awkward key to use. I can do it, but I'm a little bit limited with that. Well, if we set our side key B flat to always play a semitone higher, now any note that we play will trill up by a semitone using the side key B flat. We could do that on any note we choose. And don't forget, you can set any of those keys to be a semitone up. Now, I think using the side key B flat for that is probably the best choice, but you can use others as well. The third function would be to take the idea of what is sometimes referred to as EWI standard fingering. So we can make our own combination of sort of saxophone / EWI fingering. And the reason that can be very useful is we can kind of use it as a little bit of a scale cheat, or an easier way of playing some of those most difficult scales. Again, I can't emphasize enough, if you really want to be able to get into playing an instrument well, knowing all of your scales properly in all keys is very useful. But even some of the most professional players I've spoken to occasionally want to use this little trick to get them out of difficult situations when they're playing certain passages. So how do we do it? Well, I'm just going to show you a little version here that I use. In this one, I'm setting my left pinky key. This is actually the C sharp key, and I'm setting that to always be a semitone up from whatever note I'm playing. Now, to give you a quick example of this, if I play a scale of C major, if I play C major scale again with my pinky holding down that C sharp key for all of the notes, I magically get C sharp major or D flat major, whichever way you want to think of it. So here's C, and then I'll play the C scale straight again, but with the little finger on, and I get D flat. By the way, my instrument is transposed to B flat, just in case that gets you a little bit confused with what scale you're playing. But you can start with any transposition, but doing this will save you having to change the transpose knob, and it's a much easier way of quickly switching into different scales if you want to. If we take advantage of the possibilities here, you could learn the 4 easiest scales on the Aerophone, but actually be able to play in all 12 keys very easily. Yep, it's a cheat, but hey, if it helps, let's incorporate it. If you want to know how to do that, make sure you like and subscribe, because that video will be coming along very soon as iSaxTip number 9. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget, if you want to find out about some great courses for the Roland Aerophone, then visit www.iSax.Academy. I'll see you there.